Well, an anonymously sourced report in the Washington Post that came out yesterday claims that federal agents involved in investigating Hunter Biden believe that they have enough evidence to criminally charge the president's son with tax crimes for making a false statement relating to the purchase of a gun in 2018. Now, ultimately, the decision of whether or not to prosecute Hunter will come from Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss, who was nominated to that position by former President Donald Trump in 2017. But the big question is, will Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland allow the investigation into the president's troubled son proceed independently, or will the Department of Justice once again let another Democrat go free? Here to respond is the host of the great Grace Curley Show, Grace Curley, and Republican strategist and attorney Erin Elmore. Ladies, thanks for both being here. I want to start with a simple question. Yes or no, do you think that he will be indicted or charged? Erin, I'll start with you.
Yes, hopefully soon.
Grace?
All right, well, I was going to say no, because if history is any guide, like you said, the DOJ tends to let Democrats slip through the cracks. But Erin is inspiring me. I'm going to say yes, too, and I'm going to be hopeful on this Friday afternoon.
So now I want to go back to you guys. Why do you think the yes? Is it because David Weiss is the guy and he was nominated by Trump? Is it because you think Merrick Garland is going to let it go through? What is the yes based on, Erin?
I do believe that the fact that the attorney and the judge is a Trump appointee does garner some favor. But I will say this. We are 32 days from the midterm elections, and this has been 4 years in the making. And I do believe that the evidence against Hunter Biden has just become so significant and has mounted to such a level that the American people want some sort of, action here and results here and consequences for bad behavior. And we haven't seen that thus far. And we know that we're having so many problems around the country with crime. And this is a different kind of crime. But no one should be above the law just because your last name is Biden. If any of this was perpetuated by the Trump children, they would have already been perp walked. And I think it's enough of one standard of justice if you're a Democrat and another standard if you're a Republican. So I'm hopeful. Let's get this done.
So, Grace, before I get you to weigh in on this, I want you to sort of add this element to it. As Erin mentioned, we're 32 days out from an election. The DOJ tends to sort of shy away from matters that might influence an election. So, A, respond to the question, and B, add in the element of, do you think that they think that Hunter Biden's charges might play into the election?
Well, I'm going to start with B and say, if that's the case, then I guess we could be doing this every 2 or 4 years. I mean, there's plenty of crimes when it comes to the Bidens, and it was the same reason they didn't want anyone to run with it with the October bombshell in 2020. I just think eventually they have to figure this out and they have to hold him accountable. And I agree with Erin. I mean, the American people are really sick of this double standard. What I do think might end up happening is when we see all of the bombshells that came from the laptop from hell, I think that that's where people think there should be justice. But I think in these counts, whether it be lying on the gun form, which is a felony, or the tax evasion questions, I think that they'll try to give him a sweet deal so it looks like they're appeasing people and saying we held him accountable. But the really big stuff, the stuff that people have written books about, the stuff that, really drives people crazy in this country, I don't think that they're going to look to tackle that anytime soon. Yeah. So,
Erin, the thing is, the president of the United States said that Hunter's the smartest guy he knows. Democrats have also talked about, how guns are rampant and we've got to clamp down on them. But Hunter Biden in 2018 filled out a legal document where he responded no to the question of whether or not he used narcotics, despite his own admission in his own book that he indeed was smoking crack at the time. So here's the thing that's funny. I mean, A, you've got Joe Biden saying this guy's the smartest guy I know, and Democrats around the country talking about the rampant, concern they have for guns. And yet the president's son gets none of the blame for what's going on, or they don't use him as an example of what's wrong with the system.
No. And by the way they treat Donald Trump as this sort of vilified, terrible character, you would think Hunter Biden was his son. But no, of course not. Trump's children behave perfectly well, are all successful, all charitable. You don't see them in undercover videos engaging in this kind of nefarious behavior. And like I indicated earlier, I do believe that there are two standards of justice. The media is completely running cover for the Biden administration. They blacked out the laptop from hell situation right before the election. Still, when anything bad surfaces in the news about Hunter, it's a complete and utter media blackout from the left. So there is no accountability, there is no justice, and people that are only consuming media from left-wing outlets don't even know what's going on. So something hopefully will happen soon that everyone is forced to cover it. And the fact that the Washington Post did publish this article, I do believe is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm with you on that. I think the idea that the Washington Post published it says a lot. It's funny. A lot of times when you've got, whether it's the Daily Caller or the Washington Free Beacon publish something, it's almost like it gets ignored. Grace, one quick thing that I want to touch on. Hunter Biden is always covered up by the left he's got mental health issues. Yeah. But at the same time, as I mentioned, this is a guy who literally possessed a gun illegally, and they dismiss everything, as I mentioned, Erin, because he's got mental health issues. But these are the same problems. I mean, all of these gun issues that we see over and over again are with people who have troubled past. He is exhibit A of someone who shouldn't have a gun.
Yeah, and I think Erin put it really well when she talks about this two standard of justice, because look, no one here is being unsympathetic to the fact that this person has dealt with drug issues and mental health issues. A lot of people in this country have, but that doesn't mean that those people are not held accountable for their mistakes. A lot of times they are, and a lot of times it actually leads them to reform their lifestyles. So I really don't think that that excuse holds up, and I don't think it's fair. And I just want to add in here, we're talking about this gun and how he lied on a federal forum, but it goes beyond that. I mean, if you look at that crazy story about his ex-lover, Hallie Biden, who's also his sister-in-law, disposing of his gun in a trash can across the street from a high school because she thought he was going to kill himself. I mean, it's not like he lied on the form and then was very careful with his gun for the rest of his life. He actually was very irresponsible with the gun. And I think that's a part of the story that gets lost.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of that gets lost. Erin, Grace, do me a favor, stick around, because contests are sometimes settled by a coin flip. That's a clue for the company quiz, which you are all going to take part in with Lindsay. That's coming up next after the break. Stay with us.